خلينا نطلع استاذنكم بس لو في حد هيتكلم معايا هكلم كل الكلام بالانجلش. ها ماشي. كلنا عملنا سكان للكيو. So good morning everyone. Today we are going to speak about a new subject. Everyone can scan the QR code and join the Mentimeter to see the slides. So if you scan this, there will be a questions during the lecture, so you can answer the question. We are going to speak about CDN and cybersecurity. This is my profile. If you'd like to know or you'd like to contact me to see my profile, my researches, and my qualifications. But first of all, we are going to have the agenda of today. We have CDN and DOS, Distributed Denial of Service, and define vulnerabilities and SQL injection. Before we start, we have to give some introduction about the topic. So if, let's say, we have a user is trying to log into a website like certifiedethicalhacker.com, he will have to enter a username and password to the form. And through the internet, he can go through the firewall and the web server. And from the web server, he will have to communicate with the database management to verify the username and password from the database. So he will select star from where username and password equal the entered username and password. This is how the form is going on through the system. So just let me. Okay, so the first question we have, I'd like to know if any one of you know Microsoft Information Server or Apache or Node.js or Tomcat. Anyone know any of these web servers? Okay, so we have people know Apache, they know Node.js, but the question is, what is the most popular web server used by large organizations? Okay. Okay, so we have how many votes? We have 7 votes. Okay, 70% is saying that Apache, 75% now is saying the Apache is the most common web server used by large companies. And let's see the answer. The answer is yes. Apache is the most common web server used by large companies. Okay, and the ground truth of this, if you want to see the statistics of Apache web server, we can see here Apache is having 37% from all the web servers in the whole world in 2024. So we can see have some examples of these companies like Facebook, LinkedIn, IBM, Netflix, NASA, Adobe, Wikipedia, and Cisco. They are using Apache Web Server in their products. Okay, let's continue. So do you know the port number of HTTP? So can we vote? Okay, so we have 3 votes only. Anybody wants else to vote? So, okay. So it's a very well-known port number. It's port 80. Yeah, that's correct. So most of you have actually answered it correctly. All of you actually. Okay. So what is the port number, and how can we see that port number relates to the operating system, and how the operating system will handle requests coming to port 80 in the Apache web server? The most famous web server Apache is installed using a tool called XAMPP. So if you want to install Apache, Microsoft, MySQL server, FileZilla, FTP server, or email server like Mercury, or Java web server like Tomcat, you can have XAMPP to do that for you. So if you install XAMPP in your computer and you start the service, you can see here that we have port 80 and port 443 is open for Apache. And beside the Apache, we can have a process ID. And we have discussed the process ID before. But if we want to explore more, we can see here the process ID, the Windows ID. And we have seen before that TCP view tool that you can use it to see the process ID, and the open port number, as you can see here, is very related to the XAMPP. Open process ID is the same if we are going to monitor it using TCP view. Okay. And the request is going from the start to the end using, as we have discussed before, the bucket. So the bucket is the smallest or simple term of a unit sent from client to server. So if I want to send a request to a web server, I have to use the format of destination MAC address and then source MAC address. So I'm sending the source and destination address, and the source IP address and the destination IP address. And of course, I have to put the port number. So I will have also source port number and destination port number. Anybody can say why I have source port number? Imagine I have a browser, and in the browser I have tabs. Okay, each tab will have a session. Exactly. If I want to open a multiple session with the server, then I have every time to put a new source port number in order to get the reply, so I know who initiated that request. Okay. As another way of seeing that from the command, we can use netstat instead of using TCP if we don't have TCP on our computer to see the open ports and the connections going on. Okay. And these are the most common port numbers or well-known port numbers for each and every protocol we have in the network. We have discussed this before, but this is for your information. So the well-known ports start from 0 till 1023, and the register ports that are used by the client is from 1024 till 49, and there is a private dynamic ports from 49,000 to 65,000. Okay. Here, if we have, as you can see here, how many people are connected to Facebook in 2024? By April 2024, we have, in the social network, we have about 3 billion users concurrent, like at the same time. So imagine how big is the server to handle 3 billion sessions at the same time. Can you imagine how big is the server? So we don't have any server to handle them. So what is behind, or what is the solution for this problem? This is a big problem we want to solve. Anybody has a solution for that? Like if we are accessing Facebook from Egypt or from UK, from Germany, from anybody, are we going to US server? Are we visiting US server? So what we are doing? Can you imagine? Yes, we have a distribution service. So this is the technology behind that, and we call it CDN. CDN is the solution for that. We have the origin server, as you can see on this one, and between the origin server and the user, we have a CDN network. CDN network has many CDN cache. So how is distributed and over the world? For example, if we have a server in US, and this is the origin server here, okay, and we have many users in every continent. We have in Africa 2 people, and we have 1 in Europe and 1 in Australia. Okay, every time this user is trying to access Facebook, for example, if this is the Facebook server, he's not going directly to visit Facebook. No, he will visit something called edge server. And the edge server will ask the origin server to send the data, and he will keep it for other users to see. So he will cache the content during the request of the users. Every time the user will request something from Facebook, he will cache it in the edge server. So next time, if he's going to ask again for another user in the same continent or in the same country, he will visit his edge server. He will find the details. Okay, these are some of the features why we are using CDN. Of course, we want to have good user experience. If you open Facebook, it will not take long time. So the performance is the first one. The second one is the lower infrastructure. We don't have a very big server at one place, which is very risky, and also increase security. We need to increase the security and the self-service. So when we said security, so what was the issue that we have if we have one server? You know, we have took all the threats that can happen to one server. What is the problem of having one server? If we have a denial of service attack to that server, then we don't have one server. This server is gone. This service is finished. But if we have a distributed servers, even if we have a denial of service to one of the edge devices, the other edge devices will serve. Okay, so we have a replica of our servers. So how this is going to happen? We need to see what is the denial of service attack and distributed denial of service attack. Before we go for that attack, we need to just recall some of the basics that we have taught before, like the cybersecurity layers, the people, the network, the endpoint, the application, the data security. And these are having some threats. We can have some threats, like the definition of threats we have defined before. It is the damage and the disturb of operational functional activities of an organization. And the attackers using cyber attacks threats to inflate or steal data of individual or personal information, functional information, and login credentials. Okay, and we have seen that. Anybody can tell me a sample of external or internal intentional threat? So for internal, for example, who's the internal threat, intentional threat? Anybody can share? Can you raise your voice? An employee, exactly. So if we have an employee inside the company, he's an internal threat to that company, okay? And if he intentionally shared some of the data from his company, he can also be a threat to that company. Okay, so another threat is the malware. The malware we have seen before during the last decades. We have seen a lot of types of malwares, especially ransomware and Trojans. So we will take the first one. We will speak about Trojans. The Trojan is a harmful application, but with a face of potential good applications. Like it will show you that we have an application for games or something. So you play games. While you are playing the game, the Trojan is just start when you are not in the doing any activity on that computer. And we have seen the common ports of the Trojan. Are the common ports used by, and we know now what is port numbers, so we can relate that to Trojan. Okay. And the type of Trojans, we have a remote access Trojans, backdoor Trojans, botnet Trojans, rootkit Trojans, and many Trojans, including distributed denial of service attack Trojans. So we have Trojans that are doing distributed denial of service attack. Using what? Botnet. So if we have a botnet, the botnet will have so many computers, compromised computers. We call them zombies. And the attacker is trying to control all these computers and control them by using a bot command and control center. And he will give the order to the command and control center to ask these people at the same time doing a denial of service attack, or what we call distributed denial of service attack. So what attackers can do with botnet, of course, distributed denial of service attack. So we have a question here. What is the difference between the denial of service attack and distributed denial of service attack, and how can I use it? How can it use Trojan and botnet? You can probably be your response. From what I have just explained, you can just write what you understood. Okay. So we have 3 responses. Okay, great. So we have first response is a denial of service attack overruns a single target with traffic from one source, while distributed denial of service attack uses multiple sources to flood a target, often leveraging, which is very perfect definition. I see. Okay. The second one is denial of service attack. This is a single source attack where one system or one user send an overwhelming amount of traffic to a server, attempting to crash it or make it unusable. So this is the definition of DOS. Yes. Again, DOS attack floods the server with a traffic, making website resources unavailable. And distributed denial of service attack is a DOS attack that uses multiple computers. Okay, these are all perfect definitions. I see that you really grasp the idea of denial of service attack and distributed denial of service attack. We have two another responses. Distributed denial of service attack use many botnets but not, it's one botnet actually, because many botnets means this is another called, what we call it, cascaded distributed denial of service attack. It's another level of doing a distributed denial of service attack and using different bots. So each bot is distributed denial of service attack. So we have a cascaded or accumulated the distributed denial of service attack. So we have to correct that. DOS attack attempts to make system unavailable, overwhelming. Okay, so we have grasped the idea. Thank you for your responses. And this is another detailed explanation about having one computer or attacking one server. And this is what we call it distributed denial of service attack, where we have a multitude. We can have a compromised zombies, as we can see here. We have a multiple botnets where we have cascaded distributed denial of service attack. And these are the tools that hackers have developed to use, or let's say the penetration tester used this to check if our servers can really got written by distributed denial of service attack or DOS attack. So let's have more thing about vulnerabilities. You know, most of the software that we are developing can have vulnerabilities. So because we are talking about applications, and these applications are opening port on the network, so we can have also vulnerability on the software itself, or the operating system, or the network devices. So we have some databases that really captured all the vulnerabilities we have. Okay. So what we are doing to get all the vulnerabilities on our operating system or our network or our application, we are using something called a vulnerability scanning process. So the vulnerability scanner will scan the whole system, starting from the network, operating system, database, and web server, and even third-party components and the custom web application that I have developed. So I have to scan each and every layer. The first one is the physical security. So I have to lock the door of the computer center. I cannot see a computer center without a locker. And of course, network, I have to make sure that I have configured the network devices, the Cisco switches, the Juniper networks, the Fortinet proxy, everything I have to do it on the network. I have to secure it very well. I know all the configuration. I mastered that. I know all the vulnerabilities on the network. And then after that, I need to go to the server itself. The server consists of operating system. So I have to look into the operating system vulnerabilities. And if I install web server and database server like Apache and MySQL, I have to go to database server and check if there is a vulnerability on the version that I'm using. I have to update and patch that server. Of course, the web server and the Apache. And the third-party components, like if I'm installing another software like Microsoft Framework or Microsoft.NET or something, and the custom application that I have developed, the code I have developed. So let's go to the custom problem, the custom or vulnerability on custom application. Okay, so we will select one of the big issue that most of the developers even tell now, even if it is very old vulnerability, but till now we will see what is the issue. We have seen that in the beginning. This was the first slide that we have seen. I'm resharing it with you in order to know what is the most difficult part of a website. It is the authentication part. So if this part is being attacked or vulnerable to attackers, then this means I lost all the reliability and all the reputation of my company in front of everyone. So I have to make sure the login screen is very secure. Okay. So how can I do that? I need to understand how the code is done in HTML and PHP, or how I'm asking the server to verify the username and password. So imagine this is a form, username and password, and we have that form send the request like what we are seeing here. So imagine that you are sending this request over the network. So can you see the URL at the end, the last sentence, the last line? You can see here, get data, employee ID, and the employee ID is written exactly as it is written here. And this will travel over the network. So if anyone captured this, he will know my username and password. And this is the first issue. We have to encrypt the username and password before sending. This is one thing. The second thing, when I'm reaching the server will take the username and password, will ask me what is the username and what is the password. What he will do, he will connect to the MSQL server, MySQL server, using a username and password, and then he will configure or structure a SQL structured query language SQL statement to verify he will select, let's say, name, salary, and serial number of from employee table, where employee ID equal the entered employee ID and the password that I have entered. Do you see any problem with this statement? You don't see. Don't see. So let's see the problem. So imagine that I didn't enter the username only. I just entered single quote and then enter the username and again single quote space and then hash. Okay, so the value of the employee ID here, employee ID equal to, it will enter what I have entered here in the username. And the password will be entered here. Okay, but what is the issue of this SQL statement now? You know, in SQL statement, if we have hash means the rest is commented. Okay, so let's see what will happen. What will happen is the SQL statement will be select name, salary, serial number from employee, where employee ID equal this employee ID. Where is the other verification? It's gone. So I don't need to put a password. Even if I put blank password, it will retrieve the data and show it to me. Imagine. So this is how the first SQL server or SQL statement is being done. And what is the name of this attack? SQL injection. The name of this attack is SQL injection. Okay, there is another way of doing that. Instead of putting, if I don't know the employee ID, I don't know the employee ID, I don't know the password, but still I want to do SQL injection. What I have to do? I have to put another way. I will just put in the user ID any name, and then I will enter or 1 equal 1. Means always true condition. It will retrieve all the employee IDs, salaries, name, and serial number. Okay, and this is a very big issue. Okay, so let's say I know your username and maybe Facebook, and I go there and I click change password or forget password. What will be would ask me? It will ask me about the username and the old password and the new password. So how the SQL is gonna be done here? If I want to update your server, I will say update employee set password equal to the new password, where the condition again, employee ID equal employee ID, and the password equal the password. So again, if I put here in the user ID, single quote space hash, this will be all commented. Okay. So again, I can change your password without your knowledge. So that's why people now, just yesterday, my friend, he's calling me, asking me for money. When I called him, he said, no, my account is being hacked. Somebody changed my password and I cannot enter to my account. And this is real, happened yesterday. Okay, so imagine if I I want to do something else, not only changing the password. I want to change the salary. I want to upgrade my salary, and my salary is 10,000. I want to make it 100,000. What I can do? I cannot do this. I can only update my password. But I can update my salary if I add to the new password, in the field of the new password, salary, single quote, comma, and then salary equal 100,000. So my salary will be raised from 10,000 to 100. Or maybe my friend wants to make a joke with me. He will put my salary as 0. So he can do this and change my salary as well. So this is the SQL injection techniques. The most, we can say, worst SQL injection attack, because we are looking to the database as a root, so we can even delete the table. So if I put an employee ID semicolon, drop database, and I name the database semicolon again, what will happen? It will delete the whole database. It will delete the whole database. So these are some forms of multiple attacks of SQL injection. So using some of the logic gates, as we know, or 1 equal 1, or using hashing techniques. What is the countermeasure? How can we protect ourselves from SQL injection? When we are doing codes, we cannot just take the username and password as a variable. We have to do some operations on that username before. I have to validate. Is this username having a space, having a hash, having a single quote, or semicolon? Then if it has all this, I need to make sanitization for that username. And that's why we have to make sure our code is not vulnerable. Maybe functionally working well, but it is vulnerable to this SQL injection attack. So these are the countermeasures. I need to make sure the size of the data. I need to make the multiple layers of validation. It's not only one layer. I have to do a lot of layers. I can also hash the values of username and password. This is my contact number, my email, if you want to contact me anytime. And then I need you to put your opinion on the lecture, please. Your feedback. Your name will not appear, so you are free to say what you like to say. Okay, thank you very much. Very good. So you see that this way is better than the traditional way? You believe that this is a better way? Okay, so we are learning every time, right? Okay, thank you very much. We'll close the session.